This broadcast is the property of Codependents Anonymous. Reproduction without written permission from Codependents Anonymous is not permitted.
Okay, so we are now recording. This is May 30th, 2020, Fellowship Forum, and today's topic is an open discussion topic about Step 12 and service, and essentially sharing our experience, strength, and hope regarding this topic and having open discussion on that. So with that being said, I will go ahead and read Step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to other codependents and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. So with that, I am simply going to open it up for open discussion as to, what does Step 12 mean to you? How has it impacted your life? And we'll go from there. So with that, raise your hand, unmute yourself, whatever it takes for us to get started.
Well, hey, Gail, this is Kirsten, and I'm codependent.
Welcome, Kirsten.
Thanks. I typically, I'll just say in terms of Step 12 and service, I have had the opportunity to be at all levels of service, at the meeting level, at the I'm in Southern California at the SoCal level, and also at the world level. And I think that it is true for me where they say that service is the diamond lane to recovery, because I have had the opportunity to learn so much about myself in working with other people and being able to handle the opportunity for growth and understanding myself a little bit better. Why does that person really trigger me? What about their behaviors are bringing out that response, and looking at myself and getting out of my typical straight to judgment, what's wrong with them? Because that's where I came from. When I was growing up, that's what I heard all the time. What's wrong with everybody else? And so that just became my internal voice. But for me to be able to practice, if I'm having a problem with someone, what does that say about me and what's happening and what are those triggers, and use that as an opportunity to learn more about myself. And it's been sometimes it's been painful, and thinking, okay, I really don't like this person. Why does everybody else love this person? What is it about me and that trigger and old stuff that is getting in the way of me having a new friend? And that's been a real eye-opener for me, how I sabotage my own possibilities, my own opportunities for friendship and even existing relationships. So I love that aspect, and I love making new friends. And so being able to serve at all kinds of different levels, I've been able to meet some amazing people and various levels of recovery and things that I can learn from them as well. Not to mention giving back to the organization, the fellowship that has brought me so much joy and recovery in my life. So it's just such a win-win situation that I encourage it for all of my sponsees for sure. And I'm grateful to my sponsor, because she really instilled that idea of giving back to the program. And I'm grateful that she did that. So that's what I'd like to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. So what's the experience, strength, and hope of the rest of you? Who's next to share?
Um,
John, would you like to share?
Thanks. I just came on. I'd like to sort of get a chance to hear what others are saying first before I jump in.
Okay, would you go ahead and turn off your video because we're not doing any video on this call.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. So,
Gail,
yes.
This is John. I don't know if you were asking for me or if there's probably more than one person named John on the planet.
There's more than one, but would you like to share, John?
If I could, I don't have to share, but if you'd like me to, I'll give it a go.
Okay, go for it.
All right. Well, thank you for doing this, and I would love to hear, and I'd love to say that service is largely what I believe in, have always believed in my entire life, and I was kind of raised in that spirit of, help others every chance you get for as long as I can, and to the day I die, do all the good I can for all the people I can, and for as long as I can. So that's just my conditioning, my upbringing. Was it particularly functional? No. Or was it, codependent? Yes. Am I acquainted with finding, my projections? Yeah. Is it easy to do all the time? No. And the closer the person is to me, like in my relationship to them, my wife, for example, or my sister of DNA. I have several, but then it's more difficult, a reaction or a judgment. Yeah, I can always find my own myself in another person. That's not terribly hard, but like I said, with the closer the person is to me, the more difficult that can be, or the more consistent the rattle is in me. And I've watched people change as I've changed, which is a beautiful thing. And I think you all know how that works. You've been certainly around, and I know really for sure I don't have any power to change anybody else. So I've given myself a huge amount of time getting out of the business of trying to just change people or convince them to be this way, that way, or the other way. It's not easy to say, okay, you're going to be different, and I'm not going to change that ever. I'm not going to, and so I stopped trying, which is great for me, and it's great for them, I think. So I'll leave it there and say thank you, and let somebody else have the floor. Thanks, Gail, for leading us on this. I'll pass.
John, appreciate it. All right, Donna, you have your hand raised. You want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Thank you, Gail. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I feel as though I love my service work. As a young woman, I did work, everything, church work, campfire girls, because it kept me from looking at myself. But as I became involved in CoDA, I realized I had to have a two-way thing, and I did something called, energy and balance, and I tried to balance out the amount. I didn't want to go back into the rut of doing nothing but CoDA work and then being crazy about it, and then complaining about it or whining about it. So I decided to get to a balance part of it. I do my service work now, not because I have to, because I want to. I've learned how to say no as a recovering codependent, that I don't have to raise my hand all the time, or when somebody's not stepping up to the plate, I don't have to either. And I guess I keep using the word balance, balance, balance. The years of being in the program and using the 12 steps has made me a different person and a calmer person. And I have to balance, work and play, emotion with reasoning, giving and receiving. but I have to take care of myself first so I can give it away. And that's what CoDA has taught me. And I am grateful to this program for the last 22 years. So thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
This is John,
Yes, John.
and I have a question. Is the expectation for these fellowship forums? I've only been on one or two. Is it for us to follow the usual sharing expectation of keeping the focus on ourselves and talking about our feelings, or is this a place where we can talk about the larger context of service, the things that I am aware of and that are helpful, that seem to interfere with service, which is not really keeping the focus on myself. So, Gail, could you answer that question?
The intent of this forum call, John, was to share our experience, strength, and hope about service. What has that meant for you? What has that done for you in your personal recovery? Those types of things.
Okay, yeah. So basically, sort of as we do in a sharing meeting.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then I'll talk about my own experience. Is that when I came into started doing service after a good number of years in CoDA, during which I really felt a significant growth, personal growth, a much greater calmness. The anxiety that I had been in sort of at the gut of my solar plexus for all of my life had gone away. But there was another element that was puzzling to me. And that although I was feeling quite generally calm and in a good place, there seemed to be difficulties in the way that I was working with other people. So my assumption was, well, there's something that comes up as I work with other people. And so that's why I started doing service. So all the people that I started doing service with were my guinea pigs to make so that I could find instances of where they seemed to get turned off and things were not going very well. And in the program, well, then I could ask, inquire about that, and maybe get some feedback. Now I found that even in CoDA, that's kind of a tough question for people to answer, because most of the time they're awful nice. They're so nice that they don't. They quickly forget the little irritations that may have come up in as a result of something that I did, and by the time I ask them, they've totally forgotten about it. But there are other times when I'll get an email from somebody and say, "Hey, John, at that last meeting, such and such happened," and that is really a blessing. And it has been moving me more and more towards accepting myself and accepting my flaws, and accepting and the great thing is, the more I accept my flaws, the easier it is for me to accept the flaws of others. And boy, that really helps a lot. So when kind of irritating things are happening, then I'm not taking it personally. I'm remembering how easy it has always been for me to do stuff that rubs people the wrong way. I can I can just step back and recognize it's going to take at least as long for them, or I shouldn't say that. Hopefully not as long for them as it did for me, but it'll still take a while. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, John. I'll share real quickly that when I came into this program, I got fortunate in that the sponsor that I got right off the bat really was adamant about, if she was going to sponsor me, one of the requirements was I needed to do service. At that point, my service was in my home group, making sure that, I was there. And there's so many ways, she had to explain to me, there's so many different ways of doing service, even in our home group, in your home group. Number one, showing up to listen and to share. Both of those are forms of service, especially for the newcomer who comes in. Doing things such as making sure that the room is set up and organized and ready to go, making sure that the newcomers are greeted, as they come into the meeting, because I know for me, when I came into my first meeting, I was scared to death of even walking in the room, much less sitting my butt in the chair and listening to what was going to be said. And then little by little, my awareness about service expanded. First, it was in my home group meeting, what can I do, including even reading the foundational documents. That's a service to the group. And then years later, we started to form this thing called intergroup. I didn't know what the heck it was, but I kind of followed along and got bit by that bug and started, doing service at that level, and then, years later, they said, well, we need a delegate to go to this conference. I'm like, okay, well, tell me what the delegate does. And I kind of got roped into that one. I say roped into because I wasn't really sure what the heck I was doing. But then I showed up at the service conference and all of a sudden saw a whole another layer of, or level of, where service was being done. And then we were encouraged as delegates, take a look at all these different committees and see if there's a committee that really rings true to maybe the direction for additional service for you. And I can say personally for me that every level of service that I have been fortunate and blessed to be participant in has increased my recovery process. Was it always pleasant? No. Did I have to look at some of my stuff along the way? Oh, absolutely. Did I have to look at some of my behaviors that I created growing up that allowed me to survive childhood and into adult life? Yeah, I had to look at those because a lot of those were no longer effective at all. If the one thing to get into, the desire for healthy and loving relationships, if that's the requirement to be in CoDA, and that was my desire, I had to look at some of the stuff that I was doing in behaviors and actions that really weren't conducive to healthy and loving relationships. And what I found is, I get to practice the steps, traditions. I get to practice all of this in all of my affairs, and that includes my service work. And there are times where I have to sit back and relook at the steps and traditions and service concepts and say, am I really utilizing these, each and every one of these, to the best of my ability in all affairs of my life? And if not, how do I incorporate these things? Because, when I got into this program, I went from just in any arena, I went from, the 4 stages, the unconscious incompetent. I didn't know what I didn't know. I was green. I was a newbie. I didn't know I was a sponge. Tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. And oh, by the way, can I graduate this program in 12 months? Because that's about how much time I'm willing to give you guys. Yeah, that didn't last long. And then, it went to the unconscious conscious incompetent, meaning now I know what I don't know. I got to figure this thing out, which meant I had to stick around. Then I went to the conscious competent, meaning I had to be really aware. Am I using the steps, traditions, and service concepts in every area of my life? Every area of my life, including relationship with my kids, my family, my friends. And then finally, with practice and practice and practice, for the most part, I can say that I am now unconsciously competent, meaning it's just second nature to me at this point. Every now and then when I have to do, my nightly inventory and I think, oh, I could have done that a little bit better. And that's, for me personally, is being at every different level of service, including sponsorship. That's probably the one service that is the most precious to me, because higher power keeps bringing me people to sponsor that uncover or trigger or bring me to another level or another layer of that onion of my own stuff that I need to deal with. And for that, I am so grateful. But the bottom line is, if the room wasn't open, if the meeting wasn't available, that's the first step as service, is just making sure that we are there. I am there for the newcomer who is suffering and is coming in, whether it is a physical room or whether it's an online virtual room. We're there. I'm there. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass. Thank you for letting me share. And Addie, I see your hand up. Would you like to share?
Yes, I would. I'm Addie, is still grateful, recovering codependent. And I was really happy with myself because initially Gail said there's a little hand you can raise, and I didn't know where it was, but I found it. So I was excited about that. I love Step 12. Not only does it make me totally aware of my spiritual awakening, but it also asks me, once I've had that, to carry the message to other codependents. It's just been such a boon to be able to do service in CoDA. And because it allows me to, practice the principles and traditions that I have learned in CoDA. And through that practice, I become a better person. This is a great playground to work on my relationships in the field of service, because other people who I'm doing service with, they're also working on their recovery. And I call service the diamond road of recovery, because when you're trying to relate and work with another codependent, you can imagine what that's like. We're all struggling with our character defects and becoming more aware of them as we work with other people in the program. I have been so grateful and so blessed to have started out in the meeting rooms and then step by step moved into the realm of service in CoDA in a variety of ways. And it's just been a gradual process. I would say I was in CoDA maybe for 4 to 5 years before I started doing any kind of service, even setting up chairs or barely sharing at the meetings. It was something I was just sort of sticking my toe in, trying to glean information so that I could not feel like I lived in chaos and that my life was insane. So through that process, working with a sponsor, reading the literature, I finally got to the point where I decided I would step out and do service. And I've never regretted that. I've always been so open to do service. And because I come from a perspective of always feeling on the outside or kind of rejected in my pre-CoDA years, I was always willing to say yes to anybody that asked me to be a sponsor, because I thought I had a pretty good sponsor to start with, and I followed her model. And so I stepped out carefully, saying yes to sponsorship. And what a gift that turned out to be. I have had, my life has come across so many different people, and to be able to walk the journey with them, as they say, to trudge this happy road of this journey of happy destiny has been truly gift. So I have discovered any little service I do, any bigger service I do, any responsibilities I take on in terms of service, I have been blessed 100-fold. Like I said, initially, it's been a boon. Service has been a boon for me. It's been a diamond road of recovery. It has helped me so much to move in an arena where I can practice my recovery and learn from my mistakes. And I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Addie, for sharing. All right, we have Robin next. You want to go ahead and unmute yourself, Robin?
Sure. Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Hey, this is Robin in Virginia, codependent. Yeah, I'm happy to be on here, and I have a couple thoughts and experiences to share about service. The biggest thing for me is that in my experiences of doing service, it's brought me so much further connection with other recovering codependents around the world. I've been fortunate to be a delegate at the service conference a couple times, and have also in my local fellowship participated in setting up some fellowship activities and some group inventories over the years. Yeah, and just sort of, I guess, helped organize a workshop at one point. Just various service things. I do sponsor. And yeah, just those experiences, like it helps me plug in further and to feel even more connected to this worldwide fellowship, which then benefits me even more. When I recently got to be on a call where the CoDA founders were speaking, there were hundreds of people on that call, and we did have the video on, and I could see so many people that I've met through doing service over the years who were all over the world. And just, I felt such a sense of connectedness through CoDA family. So it's definitely, yeah, doing service for me brings me more of that feeling of, wow, I really belong here. I'm really in this. And it's brought me a lot of learning opportunities. As I've been in service roles, even like small ones, it's also gotten me into just contexts and settings where I can also observe other people doing their service, like being at the service conference and being at the conventions doing service. I get to observe how other recovering codependents do their service and learn so much from that. And yeah, just also, yeah, observing how people have come together at this current time and have just sort of come together to put on a lot of extra online speaker series. There's several of those happening these days, and that's happened through service. So yeah, watching how other people do service also shows me a lot. And I think this program helps me also know that I don't have to do it perfectly. Like, I can just try it, and that's good enough. Yeah, I think there was one other thing I was going to share maybe, but yeah, I think it further enforces the coming out of isolation and the connection, because when I show up like to meet with my sponsees, it's a commitment that I keep, and then that helps me, and it just further solidifies my, I guess, identifying as a grateful member of this program. And so anyway, and I've just been so appreciating hearing that, like being on extra meetings recently and getting to hear a lot of speakers and things that I wouldn't normally hear. So that's been definitely a silver lining for me of this weird time. Um, yeah, I think it helps me like practice progress, not perfection, and to get further engaged and to enjoy myself. Like CoDA people are a lot of fun, especially like doing service. It's been really fun, and like there are opportunities to be silly and play, and also just carry a really meaningful message because it's what helped me. Like if people hadn't been doing service and showing up to meetings and being willing to sponsor, I wouldn't be where I am now. I couldn't have come up with any of this on my own. So it's actually pretty great to be able to contribute to like making that possible for other people who might just be starting or might need this. Because I sure did, and I still do. So yeah, it's good. It's good to be here. Yep, thanks.
All right, thank you, Robin. Who else would like to share what doing service has been like for you, the benefits, the gifts, or maybe the fear of doing service? It's all open for discussion.
Hi, it's Ree. I'd like to share.
Okay, Reed, go for it.
Yeah, I've had some bumps in service, but I just recently started doing CET team. I'm just like emergency backup or something right now because we're short and we don't have anybody really answering calls or anything. But it's like I'm trying to find a balance because it's almost like I have this internet addiction and then I'm doing emails, and so it's interesting that I tend to like just turn off my phone more, walk away from my phone, go outside without my phone, because I'm learning that I have to have that balance now because I need to live my life and I don't, want to be obsessed or, just consumed on the internet. I need to get outside, I need to move around. So it's actually teaching me to take better care of myself. I feel like I have a purpose of helping newcomers, and it's very fulfilling to be able to help people. I know codependents like to help people sometimes, but this is not enabling. I'm doing it in a way where I'm making sure I'm not enabling people. I make them look things up. I send them in the right direction. I don't do it for them. But it's because of the pandemic. The Zoom meetings are just growing and growing and growing. So, and all the face-to-face meetings are shut down, and they, and it's, so I have to point them to the contact person of the particular meetings and stuff like that. It's really not hard. I didn't get too many, maybe 7 a day, on average. But it does give me more of a purpose, because being in CoDA has changed my life so much that all these people have left my life and all these people have come into my life, and it's just being more with equal partners. I guess it's just the natural, because I'm changing and I'm setting boundaries, and some people don't like those boundaries, and so they're not, they have no use for me. So those were the users in my life that are just disappearing. So it's just it's just difficult sometimes because there's some cyber crimes and stuff like that, and I have to know where to send the information, and I'm just, it's learning. I'm stubbing my toes along the way, but I'm doing my best, and I try to put my my higher power and say a prayer before I sit down to answer, and be kind and not be judgmental, because these are just people that haven't even started the program yet, and I have to just remember where I was when I was new in the program, and when I was just starting out, and a lot of people have a lot of pain, and a lot of people are just, it's just nice to help people in a way where I'm not enabling and not trying to caretake or fix them or be codependent with them. So it's good practice. And that's all I have to share. And thanks for letting me.
Thank you so much. Corrine, I see that your phone is unmuted. Does that mean you'd like to share?
Sure, thank you. I had my mute on my phone muted. I am at about 125 days at CoDA, in CoDA, and I have other recovery experience and other 12-step experience, and I'm excited about being in CoDA. I was excited. Someone, asked if I was interested in co-sponsoring, and so we've been kind of doing that. But I feel like I need to find more people that have more time in the CoDA program so I can grow more. But as far as 12-step work in the past, it's like one of the greatest gifts you can get. Invariably, some sponsee would bring something to me and it was like exactly what I needed to hear. Or if it was direction that I was giving my sponsee, well, by God, I can't be given direction that I'm not following myself. So it helped keep me tied to working the steps and working the program. And I got to take, meetings into different institutions and reaching out to newcomers and, doing several different levels of service. It's like a whole new way of life. And, what's new with CoDA is I'm getting to learn to distinguish between caring and caretaking. Caretaking is there's a selfish motive there, where caring is something that's, it comes from a joyful place in my heart. And so at the end, it would be great if I could get some phone numbers. I'd like to start connecting more with people that are doing service in CoDA. Thank you.
Thank you so much and welcome. All right, we've got time for like one or two more shares. I've been timing everyone. Everyone's right around that 3-minute mark, which is perfect. So we got time for one or two more shares. Just unmute your phone and I'll give us a little more silence, and then if no one steps up, we'll start wrapping up and closing.
This is Robin. I just wanted to mention for Corinne, I'm happy to give out my number after this.
Robin, if you can put it in the chat line, anyone who's willing to offer your phone number, put it in the chat line.
Sure. I think Corinne may be on the phone, so I wasn't sure if she could see the chat, but I'll put it in there.
Okay, well,
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm on phone. Thank you.
Yeah, after the meeting, once we stop the recording, if everyone sticks around, anyone who has a phone, we can give you verbal phone numbers, okay? All right, I have Lena, it looks like you have unmuted. Would you like to share?
Yes, I would. You can hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm Lena. I'm in Oregon. My outreach was I did a CoDA meeting. It's a small town, 25,000. For about 5 years, I facilitated it, and I learned a lot, and there were people there. Eventually, someone controlling wanted to do the secretarying, so I let it change because we're supposed to do that. And then it took me about a year, a little over a year, to realize it was just super controlling and I just couldn't stand this anymore. So I left that meeting and tried to start another meeting. It didn't work. It didn't get attendees. So I ended up letting go of it. But I feel like the experience made me a lot stronger. Eventually I could figure out that this wasn't, the controlling person was in AA and she was making all of her sponsees go to the CoDA meeting. So it was crazy dysfunctional. So it wasn't something I had the skills to fix. I just had to walk away. I got too upset by the whole thing. And now looking back, I can see my facilitating it was a little bit codependent. I was taking a little too much care of people. I won't do that now. I need to be an equal if I'm going to be in friendship with anyone. It can't be too much energy going one direction or the other. And then, like, well, I have a lot of chronic things and chemical allergies, so I kind of can't go to bigger meetings. It was a struggle just to have a meeting with people coming in with scents on themselves. So I'm kind of reaching out because there's not much for me in my town anymore with CoDA. I see phone numbers. I'm going to write them down. And there's another meeting that starts right at 1, so I'm going to disappear so that I don't end up being over 500 and can't get in. Anyway, I'm appreciating being here and that there's a chance to hear other people's spin on 12th step work. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Lena, for sharing. All right. It looks like we have come to the end of sharing based on our time. So what I'm going to do, what I would like is if I have a question, if you can answer in the chat. If there's any future topics that you would love to have us cover, put that in the chat line. That gives me some additional topics to try to plan for everyone. Next month will be the June 27th meeting, and that one we have already set up, which is, let me get to it here, June 27th, and it's getting new CoDA endorsed literature for our fellowship. So that will be an interesting topic. So if you're interested in new CoDA endorsed literature, be sure to be on that call or listen to the recording later on. All right, so with that.
Are you about to end the meeting?
Yes.
I'm
going to wrap it.
Yes, and I'm on. Thank you. I'm on a phone, and so I can't see the numbers that are in the chat.
Right. So once I end the meeting and the recording, I'm going to leave this open so that we can verbally give phone numbers. I just don't want any phone numbers on the recording for safety's sake. Okay.
Got it. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. All right. So we're going to go ahead and close with the CoDA closing prayer. So if you know it, please join me. We thank our higher power for all that we have received from this meeting. As we close, may we take with us the wisdom, love, acceptance, and hope of recovery. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now. Hold on.